Hello crochet crafters. So if you were with me for part one, we did the face of a possum, and I did end up finishing off that nose a little bit more because a possum has a little bit of a bulbous nose, so I added a little bit more pink yarn just to give it a more finished look. We did the eyes and we did one ear together, so now we're going to add the body. Go ahead and add a little bit of your fiber polyfill, or if you don't have that, just use some scrap craft yarn. So I'm going to go ahead and use a gray. It's got a little fleck of white in it, and I think it will give the possum a nice body look. So we're working on the body now, and we're pulling in from the other side the yarn, and then we're chaining one. That doesn't count as a stitch, so we're going to go back in and do a single crochet in that stitch. And what we're going to do is work a single crochet all the way around, starting that body. And if you can't work it with the polyfill in there, and don't stuff it too tight, but if you can't, you can always add the polyfill after you've done this row if it's easier on you. I'm holding the polyfill with my hand, with my thumb, but again, now this is the point. You've got 2 stitches down here. You do want to work through that stitch, so you want to come back around, and then on the other side you want to come back around. And that's going to secure the ear too, and the stitching on the ear. So if you can do that, I'm going to show you again on the next ear how I did that. And my polyfill is starting to fall out too, so here's the ear loop. I'm going to come in through here and do a single, and then I'm going to bring the yarn to the back, not to the front, to the back. And I'm going to go through the other one, pull it through for a single. So let me take the polyfill out so you can see from the front here what that looks like. If it's easier for you to just skip the 2 stitches, I think you'll be fine with that too. I like to make sure I do the 2 stitches. Pull that tight. That's my stitch where I tied off. Now, I am going to be stuffing the face, but I took the polyfill out. That was a bad call on my part because I think it's easier for you to see it. Now, all that stuff in the middle there is just the ends of the ears, the ends that I didn't cut off. If you find it easier to cut them off, but I'm going to use it as part of my fill. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually slip stitch, if you know how to slip stitch, and then I'm going to chain one. And then that shows me that I finished off the beginning edge. So the next one, we're going to just do a single stitch. We're going to do a single stitch, and then a double. So you're going to do 3, not a double stitch, but 2 singles in this. So you're going to do a single stitch, single stitch, single stitch, and then 2 singles in the next single stitch. So if you can do that all the way around for me, and being careful not to pull any of the yarn through, that's going to be important. And you should be able to work now around that face, because now you have that stitch in the back that you created. And that's why if you skipped it, it would make it tighter up here. So that's why I don't like to skip the stitch, because I'm building the body. And when you've gotten all the way around, if you're already there, you can wait for me, or so remember, you got to find those stitches behind the ears. To me, it's important because, let me just show you, it's what gives that a finished look. Those stitches that we pulled off of the ears to do. Excuse me. Allergies. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch into that where I began. And I'm not going to cut this off. I'm going to actually take the tail and push it through to the back. By pushing it through, that again is part of your stuff and knit. Now I'm going to try to push that through, and I'm going to push that poly. So now that poly fits in there, no problem. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do, excuse me, is we're going to go ahead and do a single stitch all the way around to where we came here. So if you need to put a place marker, go ahead and do that now. We'll need a tail and 4 feet, all the little legs and the feet. And we will definitely get to that too. So this is just single crochet stitches all the way around. This is what's called an amigurumi animal, and the reason I picked up some of that polyfill on accident, and I usually do most of my animals with a single crochet stitch because it's just very nice tight stitch. A half double crochet is a nice stitch too, but it uses a lot more yarn. So it just depends on how much yarn you want to use and how thick you want it to be. But I think this is great for animals. So I am back around where I started. Now, the reason I slip stitch those two is, you know, basically as a placeholder. But if you want to start working in the round now I could slip stitch again, but I have that place where I know, and what happens is as you slip stitch, you'll have like a seam at the bottom. If you don't mind having a seam and you want to slip stitch it and chain one every time you come around so that you know where you started, you can do that. But it's really all up to you. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do 4 more of these single rows for a total of 6 right now. So I have 1, actually we have 1, 2, 3, but I want you to do 4 more rows. So that's actually going to be, because we had the one cast on, then we had the one where we increased, and then the single. So we'll go ahead and do 4 more, so that would be a total of 7. It will look like 6 because the cast on one is the one that's attached to the cream. And we will be back for part 3 series. Thank you.